touch or in every touch. Mighty Father, may you come and be with us. Don't leave us, King of glory. We praise you and worship because you're the loving God. Mighty Father, as we enter into our studies, Mighty Father, may you come and
Okay, thank you so much, Bubutu SS Namisindwa, for that wonderful prayer. I want to welcome everyone to this evening session of entrepreneurship education, where we are going to interact for the next 2 hours. And we hope that by the time we get done with this session, we would have learned a lot, and perhaps we shall not remain the same in as far as approaching questions in entrepreneurship is concerned. It will also be an interactive session where if you have a query that you may need to raise and then we polish it out, please, the platform will be yours. It will be just a matter of carrying up the hand. I give you permission, and then you raise your issue. Equally, you can go in the chat room, you type there, we shall be responding to your questions. This afternoon, our major focus is going to be on entrepreneurship, paper 1. My name is Teacher Tr.Mataya, and I'll be going through with you in this yet another very, very interactive session of entrepreneurship, where we need to see the learners, the learners score better grades. Oftentimes we have seen that the learners during the enable marking, you realize they have the point with them. They know what to write, but their issues have always been with presentation. So by the end of this 2-hour session, we believe that we shall translate that very good content that my colleague teachers have delivered to you, and then we'll be able to really make very, very good grades at the end of this academic year. We are starting straight away with looking at the key areas in entrepreneurship, paper 1, the approaches, the answering techniques. I decided today to pick out paper 1, given what prevailed last year, where most of the candidates made too much outlines. That some of our candidates had points to write, but then they outlined too much. It was also discovered that the selection of questions was also poor at some candidates. You leave out a question that would really get some good marks and you go in for a question, you think it's easy, but then at the end, you realize that you are scoring a very, very low grade. So by the whole end of this session, we should know when to select a given question and what parameters do you consider when you are choosing a particular question. It's not just a matter of choosing any question that comes across just because you are aiming at answering a given number of questions. It shouldn't be like that. And like I earlier said, there's a growing issue of learners just outlining the answers. And this is advanced level. We expect that you as a learner of senior 6, a candidate, you are supposed to present work which is quite elaborate. Good enough in entrepreneurship, we don't look for those deep, wider explanations. Our issue has always been one. If you give me your point, I just demand that you ask yourself how. Just ask yourself how. Any point you present, ask yourself how. The moment you answer the how part, you would have explained. Because you realize that on every question, There are points you'll have to give, but those points will demand a further elaboration. Explanation does not mean that you go in and explain 5, 6, 7 lines. It could even be 2 lines and you are done with the explanation. As long as your point is seen somewhere, protect that point with a comma, protect that point with a full stop, and then ask yourself, what am I going to add on here? Ask yourself how. And once you answer the how part, like we are going to see as we go on interacting with some of these techniques, you realize that entrepreneurship is one of the passable, very, very passable subjects that can really produce you very good grade at the end and open your chances of joining higher institutions of learning. So this evening, our focus as displayed on the screen, and I'm certain you are hearing me, you are able to see the screen. We shall slowly be going through some of these terminologies used in entrepreneurship and how best you can approach them whenever you come across. Oftentimes, you find learners are asked somewhere to give reasons and they are busy giving advantages. Again, where they want the advantages, some will be busy giving the reasons. So we want to polish out that by the end of this whole session. We all understand that entrepreneurship paper 1 is the core of all the 3 papers. That if you understand entrepreneurship paper 1 very well, then the chances of excelling paper 2 and paper 3 are very, very high. Should you have sketchy content in paper 1, you want it or not, your paper 2, your paper 3 is going to be affected. In fact, all content of paper 3 is generated from paper 1. So the good master of paper 1 will make paper 3 easily passable. In fact, in our next session, which will be, I think, on Friday, if we maintain this very timetable, we shall realize that having gone through paper 1, I will pick your views on whether we should go with the paper 2 next week or we go with the paper 3, so that we get to polish out some of these minor issues that make you miss out on good grades. Person meant to get a B, sometimes you look at, you mark a student's script who has capacity to get a B, to get an A, but has ended up with a D, which is quite unfortunate. Entrepreneurship is a very, very passable subject. I repeat, it's a very passable subject and only needed to polish a little bit smaller. I'm very happy that your teachers play a very big role. Most of the mistakes candidates present during the final exam, you realize that they come from you, the candidates. Having been advised severally, it looks like some of you, you pay a deaf ear and then you approach questions otherwise. I want to just add the same voice. Some of the things we are going to talk are exactly what your teachers have told you, but we just need to reaffirm to you that should you read your content very well, as well master the techniques of approaching the different questions, then an A is just there in the corner waiting for you. Oh, sorry, I've been informed that you have not been hearing. It's so unfortunate. Issues of the technical glitches. I want to make one of you a host so that in case network disturbs us, you are able to make me a host as well. Let me choose Ajumani SS. I want to make you a co-host here. Let me first see. Okay, I'll be making Ajumani SS a co-host so that in case I go off, you are able to reconnect me. Sorry for that. But I was not able to know that you are not hearing. I was on questions that ask for objectives, reasons, need to, why is it necessary? Oftentimes we come across such questions, and many candidates usually misfire by giving the approach for importance, for benefits, for relevance, for significance, instead of using the actual response that is supposed to apply on questions asking for reasons. It has also been discovered that we carry some of the approaches from other subjects. In your combination, you have, let's say you have geography, you have history, divinity, and then you want to apply the techniques used the other side into entrepreneurship. Kindly, the approach for those other subjects, leave them there. And the approach for entrepreneurship also on some of the qualifiers, let them stop here. Don't apply the other side. Each subject has got its own independent way of approaching questions. So the issue of transferring knowledge, especially in as far as question approach is concerned, kindly drop that. So question is asking for objectives, for reasons, need to, why is it necessary? Sometimes you find questions are talking of rationale. All those questions, they require you to start with the two. You can't start with in order to, you can start with so as to. It's very okay, as long as there is that element. But in most cases, I advise that you start with the two, because some of you, even in the writing of the word in order, you tend to give it as one word, in order, and you give it as one word. So as, and you combine it as one word, which may not be proper in as far as the spellings are concerned. So it's better you go on with the use of two on question is asking for objectives, reasons, need to, why is it necessary, rationale, explain the rationale, and then they add on a certain question. Like we're going to see some of the examples I've tried to give here. The rationale for preparing a business plan. Examine the rationale for paying taxes. Such question is called for the use of two. Why is it necessary for an entrepreneur to produce quality products in an organization? And dear candidates, I want to let you know that of recent, the setting of questions requires now a bit of interpretation. Don't just jump to a question. The questions of nowadays are no longer too direct. You need to read and rethink. What does the question want before you jump on the attempting of a given question? And like I said before, make the analysis on the choice of the questions. If you have a number where you can score 10 out of 20, and then you have another where it contains part A and part B. On part A, you are able to raise 7. Part B, you also see that you are able to raise 6. That is 13. Please go in for the number where you are going to maximize the marks. Don't be excited with the number where part A, you know all the points and you're going to get 10 out of 10. And then when it comes to part B, you don't know anything. So you are excited with part A, you'll end up scoring 10 out of 20. Yet if you had chosen a number where you know around 6 points and another part B, you know around 6 also, it will give you 12. And if you maintain a 12 on every number, literally that will score you a 60, which is a C. I'm not saying you aim at getting a C. We should aim higher. We should aim at getting A's. Entrepreneurship is possible, and nothing should stop us from scoring higher grades. So I have put emphasis here that do not use words like see, to know, to understand. You bring some of the approaches from some other subjects and you start giving reasons for preparing a lesson, rather a business plan, and you say to see, to know, to understand. Such approaches are not necessary and they make you lose the marks, even when you had given very correct points that would really fetch you a good mark. So equally, question is asking for vision, vision statement, asking for mission, asking for goals, objectives. This is what we call purpose, or we usually call it, it's one of the components of a business plan where we say statement of mission, of vision, mission, goals, and objectives. It's a component or a content of a business plan. Usually, if you meet such questions, whether in paper 2, asking about vision, mission, goals, and objectives, always start with 2. Don't lose those marks because of the qualifier. Never lose a mark in entrepreneurship because of a qualifier. And by the end of this session, I believe none of us will drop a mark just because of a mere qualifier. And I want to encourage you, dear candidates, read. Paper 1 requires that you read, that you revise. Don't revise to cram, but revise to understand. You will bear me a witness and what your teachers have also told you before. If you revise paper 1, understand it very well, then the path to getting an A for you is already very clear, just awaiting time. Example, justify the need for carrying out market research. Here I said justify the need for carrying out market research. The word is justify. The fact that I'm justifying, it means I'm giving reasons for carrying out market research. Now, in your books, you may find that the teacher gave you the importance or benefits of preparing, of carrying out market research, benefits of carrying out market research. You reach in an examination, you find a question saying, justify the need for carrying out market research. Don't again start complaining and say, you see, you know, our teacher did not give us this. No, the teacher played his role. It is now upon you to convert those points, the importance. In fact, all questions pertaining importance can be turned into reasons, and all questions pertaining reasons can be turned into importance. What changes is the approach. Like we shall see, if they ask me to explain the importance of carrying out market research, and then another question, justify the need for carrying out market research, what differentiates the two? It is just a mere tense. One will start with the to, and another will go on with the present simple tense. The use of S somewhere helps, encourages, like that. So if you have in your book importance or benefits of carrying out market research, of course, this is found in the topic of marketing. Don't say that we were never given reasons. Just use those very benefits, but approach using to. Because of the keyword here, justify the need. And the approach in answering such a question, of course, I just gave a sample here, that to identify the nature of products customers are willing to buy, to determine the channel of distribution. When you're answering questions pertaining, let's say, market research, we all remember the elements of the mix, marketing mix. And in the element of the marketing mix, there are around 10 or 11, but there are major ones. We are calling the 5 Ps. Some books will tell you there are 7 Ps, but for us, we are looking at the price, we are looking at the product, we are looking at promotion, we are looking at position and place. But you also have people, we have probe, etc., etc. Now, you can generate your answers from those 5 Ps if you have revised them very well. By the end of this session, you realize that There are topics you read, and you don't need to go to another to read about the same thing. It will be just a mere repetition. Like I always tell candidates that if, for example, I revise ways of overcoming competition in a business, then there shouldn't be a reason as why I should go and read methods of sales promotion, because the methods of promoting sales used when they are trying to promote sales in a business, literally, they will be playing the same role of overcoming competition. These will be really similar points, though the ones of competition may be a bit broader, but they just seem to be the same. So there's no need for repetition. If you are revising, for example, a role of entrepreneurship in the economic development of your country, now, the role of entrepreneurship in the economic development of your country, and then you got social entrepreneurship as a topic. You also find there the contribution of social entrepreneurs to the development of our country. These are the same points, the contribution of social entrepreneurs, and then the role of entrepreneurship. These are similar points. There's no need of revising this way and again go the other side, repeat the same. You'll be just wasting a bit of time. So sometimes even our revising tactics are not proper. We waste a lot of time on repetitions, a time you'd have used to again do some other important revision. So the 5 P's can guide you in getting some of the points as far as market research is concerned. Here, I'm not in for teaching. I am just guiding you. Go back, refer to your notes, and then attempt them. Explain the rationale. That's question to another sample. Rationale for preparing a business plan. In question 1, I've used justify. In question 2, I'm using rationale for preparing a business plan. Equally, a teacher may not waste time teaching you reasons for preparing a business plan, having taught you importance of preparing a business plan. So just go where there is importance of the business plan and start those points with 2. Just change the approach. The explanation will remain, the point will remain, but we only remove those the beginning, the suffix, beginning words, so that we substitute them with a 2 instead of that present simple tense. To identify the financial requirements of a business, to identify the vision, mission, goals, and objectives, to establish the action plan of the business. Now, dear candidates, if you find a question asking you about reasons for preparing a business plan, and you know all your components, like here I'm saying, use all the components of a business plan for reasons. You are in an examination, you have found such a question asking for rationale of preparing a business plan. You know your components very well, the components of a business plan. We have a production plan, the action plan, financial plan, executive summary. You had revised those things. Now you are there stranded saying, I don't know the reasons for preparing a business plan. You already have answers with you. Those components are actually some of the reasons for preparing a business plan. For example, to identify the financial requirements of a business. Then you ask yourself, which document helps me to identify the financial requirements of a business? Simply add an explanation here by saying, this is through preparation of a financial plan. You are done with the explanation. You are talking of to identify the vision, mission, goals, and objectives of the business. Ask yourself, what's the role of vision in a business? What's the role of goals in a business? This, just add this simple explanation and say, this helps the business to remain focused on achieving its goals. There are very many ways of explaining such a point. You can depend on vision when you're explaining, you can depend on mission, you can depend on goals. You are talking of to establish the action plan of the business. Ask yourself, what's the role of an action plan? That an action plan acts as a timetable for implementing the business activities. Then say to establish the action plan of the business. This helps to implement the business activities. As simple as that. The explanation we demand is not too much, but try to protect your point and give any explanation, at least. That's all about components of a business plan. Of course, one other advice I should give you is that learn to give points. Avoid being an examiner yourself. See, some of you have a tendency of limiting on the number of points. You be there, they have allocated 10 marks, and then you give 5 points. You assume it will be 5 times 2. When did you start becoming an examiner in this case? Entrepreneurship will give points. Kindly write, let the examiner decide from there that let it be 5 times 2. Not you to sit on a round table and say, I think there are 5. That one costs very, very many candidates. You find someone in a paper almost has scored everywhere. But when you try to check the total marks, the person is with 55. And when you open inside, the person has passed, the candidate has passed. By then, giving insufficient points costs you. Having said that, I'm not meaning that even where we don't have points for you, start creating your own. You see, some candidates are also funny. Take an example. They have told you to describe the tools of inventory management. The tools of inventory management. And let's say there are only 4, the stores management and etc. Only 4. For you are creating around 8 because they put 8 marks. Where are you getting the rest? That shows that you are not prepared. Always be that one candidate who shows the examiner that I was prepared for this examination. I have been around from last year, 2024. I went through the whole senior 5 preparing for you. I am now in senior 6, third term here in November. I am ready for you. So these things of giving sketchy content that create a bias is not really proper. And then here we're also sampling out why is it necessary for an entrepreneur to train workers? Another way of approaching such questions is why is it necessary? In the other question 1, we said justify. Question 2, we said rationale. Question 3, we are saying why is it necessary for an entrepreneur to train workers? And the approach here is that the question requires reasons for training workers, recruiting workers, induction of workers, and we all know the components of human resource. The components of human resource. In human resource, we realize that some of the components, they include recruiting. In fact, before you recruit, you must carry out what they call manpower planning. Having planned and identified the gaps, you now carry out the recruitment. And then from there, you can carry out employee placement, and in that order. After placement, you can carry out induction. In fact, you first induct, you place, and then you train, you terminate, and all that, depending. And you realize that in paper 3, being entrepreneurship, sometimes I'll even mention in other papers and don't say we're in paper 1, then why is he going in paper 3? We need all this knowledge. In paper 3, if you come across a question, especially section C, and they're asking about the business you visited, that's field trip, the business you visited, or the business you were attached to, that's about, of course, usually it's number 4, field attachment, where it requires that you spare some time, some 3 weeks during holiday, and you attach yourself on any business for internship. So if they ask you the components of human resource planning in paper 3 and in section C, make sure that the first 3, at least the first 3 are in order, the first 3. These are not steps, I repeat, those components are not steps, but in paper 3 section C, if they ask you those components and then you start with employee training. From employee training, you are coming to termination of workers. Again, you have terminated your manpower planning. It will cost you, make the first three to be in order. That's manpower planning, recruitment, and then selection or placement. It does no harm with paper one. Paper one, just write what you remember. The only thing in paper one where they'll need you to put in order is if they ask for steps. But these other things, just write what you remember. That's all. So why is it necessary for entrepreneurs to train workers? I've just sampled here to reduce supervision costs. And I told you the explanation here. First, ask yourself how to reduce supervision costs. How? This is because trained workers are competent in the work they do. You are done with the explanation. Don't break yourself with very long explanations, as long as the meaning of the point you have given comes out. Because if you tell me that to reduce labor turnover, for example, to reduce labor turnover, this is because trained workers tend to do the work perfectly, and therefore they commit minimal mistakes that could lead to their termination. You are done with that. To increase on productivity and efficiency of workers, to minimize on accidents when using machines. We all know the reasons for training workers or the benefits of training workers in an organization. If in your notes, the teacher gave you the importance of training workers, and then you come a question asking about, across the question asking about why is it necessary to train workers, then just turn those benefits and approach them with a tool, and then you will be right there. To promote employer-employee relations, etc. NB, here we are saying all reasons can be generated from, this is what I've been talking about, all reasons can be generated from advantages, from merits, from benefits, from importance, from relevance, significance, uses, rewards. All these words mean the same. We can generate reasons from that. Equally, if we find reasons on a certain topic, we can also convert those reasons into merits, into benefits, into importance, etc., etc. So always be a strategic candidate when you are revising. Don't just revise anyhow. Like I warned you before. Some of you say you make your work look funny. Someone writes for you 10 pages at school level. Now I'm looking at school level. In the end of term, in those tests you do, you write almost 8 pages. But then at the end, you see you are scoring 30%, 40%. Someone may write only 4 pages, 5, 6, as long as the person has well streamlined the points and presentation. Entrepreneurship is not all about writing booklets, but it's all about what you have written. That's the most important. What you have written is most important than the space you have occupied. So please, people who usually write too much shows that they were not prepared for the examination. There's a lot of gambling in the explanation. Unfortunately, in business subjects, we don't gamble. Entrepreneurship is not for gambling. Economics is not for gambling. You have to sit down and revise. You have to present things the way they are. We have advantages and disadvantages, or demerits or costs. Of course, having talked about the reasons, I'm not going to talk about the advantages because, like I said before, the other one is just merely for use of to, in order to, so as to, for the reasons. Then advantages or disadvantages. You may find advantages, uses, benefits, or disadvantages, costs. Those ones use present simple tense like I stated earlier, and always give a positive point statement. Use words like promotes, encourages, leads, creates, provides, helps. Some of you come across question is asking for the role. And because in other subjects, I don't know, I don't want to pinpoint in any, but this has been common. Some students apply, for example, roles of taxation, and someone is busy maybe bringing a present continuous tense when it's supposed to be a simple tense, or someone is bringing simple tense instead of present continuous tense. And the excuse the candidate is giving is that that's how we do in maybe geography, maybe all those other subjects I don't want to mention here. So kindly, like I said, let the approaches of those subjects stay there. Let the approach of entrepreneurship also stay here. And equally, don't transfer the approach of entrepreneurship the other side. Do not use past tense when they ask you advantages, when they ask you disadvantages, because those ones, the negative impact, the positive impact, they all carry the same approach. Kindly don't use this promoted, encouraged. I've tried to put it in red to show that it's not proper for you to do that. Has led, etc. Avoid such. Be a prepared candidate. Don't spoil your good work you are presenting at the last moment. I'm sampling out a question here. Explain the merits or advantages of creative selling. We all know that creative selling is found in sales promotion, in marketing, and simply they are talking about personal selling. We all know that personal selling or creative selling is one method of promoting sales in a business. That basis of moving door to door to look for the customers. So if we talk of it increases sales, promotes a two-way communication, attracts more customers. I think you see how our tense is flowing. The key word there is increases. You see the word es there. Promotes, es. Not promoted, attracts where there is ts. Not promoted, has led. Such kind of qualifiers are not necessary, and we don't need them. Avoid. Disadvantages, merits, negative effects. These are similar to, sometimes you'll find a question saying costs, or they have used the word adverse effects. The word adverse means negative. And all negative points, let us say question is asking for negative impact, negative effects, or positive effects. Kindly use present simple tense. Explain the adverse effects of competition. Here they are simply asking for negative effects of competition. They have taken a side. So don't again bring in as if they are saying assess. Some of you confuse. The question is not saying assess. They are saying explain the adverse effects. They have taken a side. Adverse is what they want. Not explain the impact of competition on a business. If they say examine the impact of competition on a business, then there you can give positives and negatives. And kindly, question is which ask for effects, impact, and they have not specified the side, whether they want positives or negatives. Please give both positives and negatives, and don't mix them. Kindly don't mix them. Because if you mix, they will go with the first point. If the first point was a negative one, then they will assume even point two, you are still giving negatives. Maybe a question had, let's say the question was explain the effects of competition. And they have put 10 marks, meaning 5 for positives and maybe 5 for negatives. Now, point one, you gave a positive impact. The examiner is still looking for the 5 points, which are positives. All of a sudden on point two, you bring in a negative. They will cross you because they are still expecting the positives to flow. So avoid mixing them. Kindly say the following are the positive effects of competition. Give some 7, even if they may require 5. Like I said, don't be an examiner yourself. Give some 7 because you never know. You may fail the first 2 and pass the last 5, and you score all your 5 marks. Usually, Some of you have a tendency of thinking, you the learners, you have a tendency of thinking that maybe if I failed the first 2, 3, and I passed the last ones, I will be crossed. No. We look out for the maximum. Whether you failed the first 5 and passed the last 4, your last 4 will be counted. Even if they wanted only 4, for you gave 9, and you failed the first 5 and passed the last 4, you will be correct. However, why would you do that? Be an organized candidate to show, to avoid someone developing a negative bias. We have sampled out here, outline the costs of labor turnover in sales staff. The keyword here is costs, and we said costs are the same as disadvantages. You have to understand what labor turnover is all about. Now, any candidate who does not know the meaning of labor turnover cannot attempt such a question and be able to excel. So it is always important to understand the keywords in the question, because failure to interpret the keyword can equally make you to give answers which are completely away from what was required. Yes, you may know that costs are the same as advantages, or rather disadvantages, but if you don't know the meaning of labor turnover, then it will be hard for you to pass what the points you are trying to give. And we all know that labor turnover is the rate at which employees come in and leave the organization. But usually the labor turnover we focus on most is employees leaving the organization. And there are always causes, there are always costs that also lead to employees trying to leave your company. What may cause that? Now, like this particular question, we wanted to know why the sales staff are leaving. Of course, whoever lives in an organization is replaced. That's why I call it labor turnover. And in a business, if out of 100 workers you employ per year, if 10 are able to leave, 10%, meaning for every 100 you employ in a year, if 10 leave, then it means you have a high labor turnover. And as a manager, you have to sit down. As an entrepreneur, the owner of the business, you have to sit down and identify the reasons as to why your employees are quitting. Now, outline the costs of poor time management. The disadvantages of poor time management. This is what we are trying to ask here. Lowers profits, puts the business at a competitive advantage. Time management is a sub-topic found in production as a topic. Remember, production is very, very important topic. It's where we look at time, because any delay in anything, it will delay production as well. Should employees, you know causes of time wastage. If the employees are 24/7 gossiping, those long meetings created, failure to delegate, all that, it can affect production negatively. So managing time in an enterprise is very, very key. And equally to you, the candidate, managing your time can either, of course, if you manage your time very well, it will yield you good results. And unfortunately, if you mismanage it, it will also pay you back badly, God forbid, which we don't want to talk about. Now, I don't expect you to find the advantages of poor time management. They are not there. There's nothing good with failing to keep time. Madit is raising the hand. Okay, you just unmute yourself. If in case you have a question, I see your hand is raised. Okay. You just unmute yourself and raise your question. Someone here is writing in our work. Okay. We need to restrain. Okay. So we have no advantages of poor time management. Don't ever be there and say, but what if I find a question saying outline the advantages of poor time management? Nothing like an advantage in as far as poor time management is concerned. We only have advantages of good time management. If you manage time, their advantages are there. But if you mismanage, we only have costs. And we are saying the lower profits, put the business at a competitive disadvantage, leads to customer dissatisfaction, destroys teamwork, makes decision-making difficult. Kindly don't outline the way I've done here. Me, I'm just directing you. For you, put a full stop, put a comma, and then attach an explanation. If you say lowers profits, ask yourself how. And there are these common points you should always talk of that should be at your fingertip. If in a business we have, let me say, maybe importance of sales promotion. You find a question asking about the importance of sales promotion. We all know that the essence of businesses carrying out sales promotion is to increase sales. So that should be my first point. Increases sales. Now, ask yourself, what happens if a business increases sales? Or where does it originate from? Increased sales originate from increased number of customers. Then say increases the number of customers. That's also another point. So increased number of customers lead to increased sales. Now, ask yourself, increased sales lead to what? Increases the profits in a business, because increased sales lead to increased profits. Ask yourself again, if I have made a lot of profits, what next? Leads to expansion of the business. So already you have generated 4 points without thinking too much. Increases number of customers, increases sales, increases profits, leads to business expansion. You can even get the fifth one. If a business expands, what comes in next? The business will gain good reputation. So improves on the reputation of the business. Already 5 points are with you, just from the first one you generated. Someone is raising a hand here. Parambo SS is raising the hand. Kindly, you will unmute yourself. Let me check here if I can. Okay. Okay. And if, unfortunately, Mr. Kaziva is off. He's supposed to make me a host so that I have the powers to accept you to talk. But as of now, I think he's with the other. He's still checking on Senior 4 also. And when he comes, he will give us permission. In fact, he will give me access to allow you to raise your question. For now, he has locked the audios and I have no way to. Maybe you will put in your chat room and later I will spare some minutes. I go in chat room and answer your questions. Thank you. Meanwhile, you can be typing and I will be able to see it. We go to the impacts, consequences, implications, effects, and here we are saying use present simple tense. So question is involving impacts, consequences, implications, effects. Just the approach is the same as advantages. The approach is the same as disadvantages. They all use present simple tense. That is use of S. Encourages, promotes, creates, like that. Then we are saying NB, separate positive from negative. Question is asking for explain the impact of taxation. Explain the consequences of labor turnover. Explain the implications, and then they add on like that of competition. Or explain the effect, examine the effects of competition in a business. Like I talked before, separate positive from negative. First said the following are the positive effects of maybe business competition or competition in a business. Give them. If the question has 12 marks, that's around 6 positives, 6 negative, but give an extra like say, let's say eight positives. Then after you'll say, however, The following are the negative effects of competition in a business. You also give them. That will show that you are organized. But if you just mix them up, you are going to lose marks. They will go with the first point. If the first point is negative, they will assume the second one is also negative, the third, the fourth, which may not be proper for you. There are only rare circumstances where I realize that there is a candidate who will not tell you that the following are the negative effects, but at least the first 5 were positives, and then all of a sudden the person switches you to negatives. That one may earn some marks, but this one who keeps on mixing up will actually lose the marks. It's unfortunate that most of you are raising your hand, but I can't permit you because when I check the host rights here, they don't allow me to unmute anyone. Let me maybe check here in your chat room. Okay. Oh, sorry. In the chat room, I think they reached 100 and disappeared. You see, whenever they reach 100 in number, it is cleared automatically. Very unfortunate and sorry for that. You can type your question and then you see. Someone is saying, okay, Martinez is saying, okay, I think this question was raised some time back that he was not hearing. I think that's the time I went off. Okay, someone is saying he can't hear you well. I don't know whether you are now able to hear me because you said some 30 minutes ago. I think it has now become okay. Okay, someone is saying zoom in. Okay. Dale is saying on that very question, what about assess? How can I approach it? Of course, when they ask you to assess, it means you must give the 2 sides. Assess the implications of competition in a business. That's what we are on right now. Maybe let me first handle the issue of zooming in, zooming out for some who may not be seeing very well. Okay. Hope you are now able to see. So the question is asking for assess the impact of competition. Usually the suffixes we can have the examine, the assess, the explain. So assess usually comes in when they are attaching the word impact or implications or effects, and you must state the positives and also give the negatives. It's not a must that positives and negatives balance in terms of marks allocation. In fact, on many occasions, positives tend to take an extra mark. Take an example. If they ask you to assess the effects of social entrepreneurship in your country, assess the effects of social entrepreneurship in your country. We all know that social entrepreneurs do more positives than negatives. So in such a circumstance, if a question has 10 marks, you may realize that positives may take 6, and then negatives will take on 4. Give positive and negative effects, the approach on the question of assess the impact of competition in entrepreneurial activities. Go to S.6, your hand is up. Kindly raise your question in the chat room. I'll be able to read through and answer you. Okay. Someone is talking of sending in the question paper. There are sample questions at the end of this session. We shall see them at the bottom, and I'll give you some minutes to write them down. I have prepared some questions down there. But what is most important for now may not be the questions, but knowing how to answer. Questions are everywhere, but knowing how to answer is very, very important because most candidates miss out on that. Someone is asking about factors that affect. We are going to reach there, no problem. We have all that. Okay. Now, examine the impact of taxation. When they ask you to examine the impact of taxation, already I've also talked about it. Give positive and also negative impact. Don't think that taxation has only positives. It also has some negatives on the side of the person who is paying. Whereas positives may be many to a person collecting, the one paying experiences some bit of pain. So gone are the days where I see there's a year where there was an argument that the impact of taxation or roles should remain only positives, especially the ask impact. But then not whoever pays tax pays when he's happy. In fact, no one pays taxes when he's laughing. Now, NB, the question of importance depends on the nature of our question. We are now going on question is asking about importance. Though importance and advantages, benefits may seem to be the same, the presentation in some circumstances may differ depending on the nature of the question. Take an example. Here we are saying importance of social enterprise, and then at the same time we are saying importance of social enterprises. These two may look similar, but they are quite different. If you ask me the importance of social enterprise, importance of social enterprises, what is differentiating is that one is singular, another is plural. So in importance of a social enterprise, I've sampled here and said it creates employment. The word is it creates. Why? They say the importance of a social enterprise, meaning it's one. Here they are saying in bracket B here, they are saying importance of social enterprises, meaning there are many. And now the tense has to change from singular to plural. They create, not they create. Don't again say they create. You'll be wrong. There is a year, I think it was with economics, where they asked about advantages of direct tax over indirect tax. They said, explain the advantages of a direct tax over indirect tax. And then in paper 2, they again asked, explain the advantages of direct taxes over indirect taxes. And most learners were excited, saying they have set the same questions, but those two questions were not the same. One was singular, another was plural. So one would require you to start with the issue of it creates, and another one would require you to say they create, they provide. This way it provides. It utilizes. This side, they utilize, like that. So always, before you jump on a question that it is very simple, read through, interpret, before you start the writing. And then we go to questions of sources. Questions which ask for sources of business ideas, sources of employee recruitment. Most of you have a tendency on questions which ask for sources to start with by, through, from. Dear candidate, I want to tell you that question is asking for sources. Kindly mention a neutral point. You'll come even across some books, some textbooks, which talk about by, through, from. Of course, it is always important to check the edition, that during that time when the person was authoring that book, these qualifiers were applicable. You see, they keep changing depending on the prevailing circumstance. Now, the sources of business ideas, don't say through newspapers, through magazine articles, through internet. You'll be wrong. Instead, just mention newspapers, full stop or comma, and explain how someone can get ideas from newspapers. Magazine articles, comma or full stop, explain how someone can get a business idea from magazine articles. The same applies to internet surfing, successful entrepreneurs, creative thinking. Don't say through successful entrepreneurs. They're asking about maybe personal savings, sources of capital for a business. And then you are saying through sale of shares. Don't put through, just say sale of shares. Don't say by selling personal property. Just say personal property. That's how the approach should be in such a circumstance. And I also talked about paper 1, section A, where I said, section A, don't waste your time explaining. Kindly give precise and concise answers in section A. I repeat, section A of paper 1. Section A of paper 1, don't explain. Just give the answer. Because even if you explain, even if you outline, you are all going to get the same mark. If it's 1 mark, it will be 1 mark. But section B, you must explain. I repeat, section B, you must explain, don't outline. The numbering is also key. Don't just open a booklet and start by saying 2A, and then all of a sudden you come on the next page, you say B. What is the meaning of B? If the other one you said 2A, kindly even come here and say 2B and introduce your question. Don't just start answering employee referral, advertising. What are you answering? You state and say, if the question was about sources of employee recruitment, what are the sources of employee recruitment? You say the following are the sources of employee recruitment, so that the examiner is introduced to what you are trying to write about. Not all of a sudden just giving your points. And this is very common with the candidates in paper 3. Someone even forgets the Roman numerals, the subsections. Even others end up mixing. They are marking in section A where you have A, B, C, D, E. Now for you, you know part A, you don't know B. You know C, you decided to answer A, you come to C, then bring D, and then bring B. That is not the order. If you don't know part B, kindly leave space. That booklet is yours. Right there, number 1B, leave space. Go to number 1C in that order. Yes, there are circumstances, of course, if someone is fair enough and you have mixed your subsections, you have A, then D, then E. If someone is kind enough, they will mark you. But you'll be wasting someone's time, because now I am following a marking guide. I know that from A I go to B. Now for you, bringing in C. And there is nowhere even where you have stated the following are the sources of employee referral. You are just starting to state. Me, I will assume these are answers of part B, and perhaps the candidate didn't know what to write about, and you'll be closed. So maintain the order of the work, but also number your work and give an opening statement on what you are writing about. Don't give conclusions in entrepreneurship like some of you do. We don't conclude in entrepreneurship. Just give your points, introduce, give an opening statement, write your points well explained if it's section B of paper 1, and then go to another number. We don't conclude in business. So sources of employee recruitment, this is found in a topic of human resource management, where we talk of employee referral, advertising, employee promotion, institutions, internet surfing. I'm not here to explain these points. I'm only here to guide you on how to approach them. So we also look at sources of capital for a business. Like I said before, say personal savings, not through personal savings, through bank loans, by inheritance. Those buys and throughs will make you lose a mark. Yet your point is very, very correct. So say personal savings, a neutral point, say bank loans, say inheritance, sale of personal property, subscription fees, without attaching those buys and throws, etc. And then question is of indicators. They must be clear and have a sense of direction. Question is of indicators take a specific direction, and that direction can either be an increase or a decrease, can be positive or negative. Techno, I think they use a techno, kindly don't write in on our screen. You make it look dirty. Okay, thank you. So outline, for example, outline the indicators of customer satisfaction. The question is asking you to outline the indicators of customer satisfaction. What shows that a customer is satisfied with your product? What shows that a customer is satisfied with your product? Already they have taken a side. And here we are saying increase in the number of customers. When you see customers increasing in a business, then just know that they are satisfied, because dissatisfied customers don't come to your business. Reduced customer complaints, increases sales, customer referrals. Contented customers tell their friends that please go and buy from so and so. He offers good products. And then indicators of customer care. Another sample of question is asking about indicators. Like I said before, indicators take us a particular direction. Don't just mix. There must be a tense there. Like a common word here is either an increase or decrease, reduction or increase. So increased after sales services. What shows that your customer care is good, that customers really appreciate the way you handle them. You will see increased number of customers, etc., etc. Indicators of time wastage in business. What shows that your workers are wasting time? Time wastage, I talked about it and I said it's in the topic of production. Gossiping, when your workers 24/7, they are just gossiping. It means they have little or no time to carry out production. Yet the major aim of employing them was to carry out production, especially in manufacturing businesses, even in service businesses, because a product is both tangible and intangible. Then we also have failure to delegate duties to the workers, excessive use of paperwork, delaying production, customer dissatisfaction, etc., etc. All these ones show that you are wasting time, or there is time wastage in business. You go and read the details. So it has no indicators as a qualifier must take a particular direction. Indicators of low level of competition, and then indicators of high level of competition. What shows that competition is low and what shows that competition is high? These are similar points, but what will make the two to differ is the direction you have taken. For example, what indicates that there is low level of competition? You will have increase in the sales. And what shows that competition is high? You will have decrease in the sales. So when you see sales reducing, just know competition has become high. Your competitors are busy taking on your customers. And when you see sales increasing, just know that perhaps your competitors are not doing fine. Maybe there are things they are doing that customers are not appreciating and they see value in my business. So you will have increased sales. And increased sales, like I said before, increases the profits. The more you sell, the more profits you'll make, especially if the policy of the organization is to maximize profits. Because we have those organizations whose aim is to maximize sales. They aim more on selling rather than making profits. But many businesses want to sell and make more profits rather than merely selling. Someone is saying, do we explain indicators in case section B? Yes, we explain them. We explain them. There's nothing you can outline in section B and score a good grade. Outlines will affect you ultimately. If you outline, then you want it or not, it affects your grade. So you shouldn't be here and again go back and do the same. And then distinguish, differentiate differences. That's number 8. Question is asking for distinguish, differentiate differences. We are saying use words like while, yet, whereas when you are answering them, and separate one answer from the other. in the conjunction. In between there, you must separate one answer from the other using these words. And it's advisable to write on another line just to look unique. If you first give maybe the meaning of entrepreneurial motivation, go to another line and say while, then you give achievement motivation refers to a strong urge and a strong urge to excel and do something unique to attain satisfaction. So that in case you fail the definition of entrepreneurial motivation, they will give you a definition, they will mark you on the definition of achievement motivation. But if you just make one wholesome statement without a comma anywhere, and then you have failed the first one, you have failed the definition of entrepreneurial motivation, then the whole thing will be wrong because you never protected it anywhere. That's why it is important you say, for example, distinguish between entrepreneurial motivation and achievement motivation. And we are saying entrepreneurial motivation refers to a strong desire, impulse, and dedication to accomplish a specific business goal. You can use a comma and say, while achievement motivation refers to a strong urge to excel and do something unique to attain satisfaction. That will show that you are highly organized. And then distinguish between entrepreneurial culture and entrepreneurial environment. I'm just trying to show you the conjunction. Up there we used the while. Now here we are trying to use whereas. Entrepreneurial culture is a culture that encourages the whole population to take advantage of existing opportunities in the environment. And then the entrepreneurial environment is merely a combination of external factors and their organic integration that make up an impact on business startup process by an entrepreneur. Candidates always tend to get confused with a combination of external factors. Of course, businesses are affected internally. Businesses are also affected externally. And external factors, in most cases, you have no control over them. No control over them. The government policies, you have no control over them. Economic recession is inflation, you have no control over them. And those factors, when they are brought together, because we are talking of organic integration, bring those external factors, put them together, and then analyze whether it is worth to make business or not. If you look at the taxation, that's about government policies. If taxes are high, you go to political side, you find that there's political instability. You also weigh in on the economy, you see that inflation is very high. Then if you are an entrepreneur, it's better you first pause and wait for the economy to settle. So those factors put together, that's why I'm saying organic integration put together can have an impact on business startup. It can either favor business startup or stop one from starting. If you have already started, it can lead to your growth or it can lead to business failure. So that's what entrepreneurial environment is all about. And usually I say, if you come across a question asking you about characteristics of the entrepreneurial environment, many learners tend to confuse and give characteristics of an entrepreneur. The characteristics of an entrepreneurial environment, usually we say there are four. There are four, and even you can use that as an abbreviation. I don't encourage that cramming, if you understand, but I'm just saying you can use four as an abbreviation. There are four, and you use four, where F is flexibility, O is opportunity orientation, U is uncertainty, and R is resource scarcity. So four of them, and the abbreviation is four. Those are the characteristics of the entrepreneurial environment. Explain the differences between business enterprises and social enterprises. Now, this question is quite different. I think it was set in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. This was a question of 2021, where they asked about differentiating between business enterprises and social enterprises. You look at a question, they have put around 8 marks, and for you are just defining what business enterprises are or what social enterprises are. you're going to lose marks. You'll end up getting only 2. If they have said explain the differences, this is no longer a matter of defining and you stop there. You must give the real differences. Give difference 1, give difference 2, give difference 3. If they are around 10 marks, then it may demand that you give around 5 differences, because each side will be taking 1. Each difference you give takes 2 marks, where 1 marker goes on business enterprises and another marker goes on social enterprises. And don't be exact like I warned you. You can even give 10 so that you are on the safe side in case of any adjustment. And then Uganda Matters Centenary SS, you are raising your hand, but like I said before, there is no way I can unmute you. Sorry for that. Let me just check your chat room here before we continue. Someone is saying too speedy. How can you control time wastage in your business? Now, to control time wastage in business, simply go to those factors which led to wasting of time. What are the causes of time wastage? Once you know the causes of time wastage, then it will be very easy for you to know the controls for time wastage. For example, if you say the gossiping is causing time wastage, then what do you do with gossiping? Simply avoid gossiping, so that put their policies to punish those who do a lot of gossiping. If they know that there is punishment for too much gossiping, automatically they will do away with it. You can even set for them goals to achieve. If one does not achieve, that will be a clear indicator that someone has just been playing around and is not doing the right work. And then if you avoid being a perfectionist, there are some people who want to be very, very perfect. And this is very common with you, some of you candidates. You go to find a candidate on question 2 that she started or he started with, has done perfectly, very well, 20 out of 20, very good. And then you come to question 3, the person is getting 7 out of 20. Literally, a person wasted a lot of time on only one number. Out of the 3 hours, you are taking full 1 hour doing only one question. Moreover, only 20 marks, still you are in F9. So being too much a perfectionist is also one way of wasting time. And how do you control time wasted? Just avoid being a perfectionist. That work is there, you'll go and go through. Someone is asking about common answers in section B. We don't have common answers. I just mentioned about some which cut across. I talked about it is rare for you to come out of entrepreneurship paper when you have not talked about sales, profits, business expansion, good reputation. You have not talked about market share. Those are common points that you should not match out of the entrepreneurship paper when you have not talked about it. It's rare, especially with paper 3. Very, very rare. Okay. I think we should go back and continue. Is it advisable to use tables when answering questions of differences? I don't advise you to do that. Kindly don't do that. Just use while or whereas, don't use tables. And then, okay, someone is writing in our work. And then, what are the differences between marketing and selling? I don't expect you to just define and stop there, unless if you have found it in section B. They're asking about differences between marketing and selling. If you have found it in section A and they have put 2 marks, they are just defining marketing and say while define selling also. But if you find in section B, they're asking you what are the differences between marketing and selling. They have put 10 marks, they have put 8 marks. Kindly give those 8 points, because they want as many as possible, and that will help you to maximize the marks. Then the question is involving definition. Definition, or what is. This must be stated the way it is in the book. Don't include your own adjustments in definitions. A definition is a definition. It's like a principle. It's like a law. You can't adjust a law. We all studied laws. You remember in your O-level, you were all students of physics. If they say Archimedes' principle, it's a principle, and you're not going to adjust anything. If it's a definition of current, it's a definition. You're not going to adjust anything. Equally here, if you find a question asking you for a definition, kindly give that definition the way it is. Don't include in your own words, because the definition remains a definition, and it just cuts across. Then I've given an example here, what is meant by business idea in entrepreneurship. A business idea is a concept that can be used for commercial purposes, as simple as that. You'll even find on the guide when they have put only 2 alternatives for that definition. And if you just bring in anything deviating from those 2 definitions, you'll be wrong. Unlike this other section B question is where you find one part, let's say part A of number 2, having around, let's say 18, 20 answers. Definition is, they don't have very many alternatives. If much, you'll find 1 or 2. So don't always deviate from definitions. Keep in mind to write what a teacher exactly gave to you. Then use words like compared to when it comes to questions of comparison questions. Differentiate comparison from differences, distinguish, differentiate. Questions of distinguish, differentiate are quite different from comparison questions. In comparison questions, we use words like than and like in the conjunction. Use than, use unlike, use compared to when it comes to middle, when you are differentiating. When you talk of conjunction, you're meaning in the middle. What do you put there to differentiate these 2? So if they ask you, for example, why is self-employment preferred to wage employment? Don't say that in self-employment, there is limited income in the form of profits. And then you say, while in wage employment, you are wrong because of the conjunction you have used, while, which is wrong. Here we are not differentiating. Here we are comparing. Explain the impact of direct taxes over indirect taxes. You must give a conjunction related to compared to, than, and like. And don't explain one side. You will end up, if it is carrying one mark, you will get a half. If it's 2 marks, you will get 1 mark. So if they ask you question of that nature, why is self-employment preferred to wage employment? You say, in self-employment, there is limited income in the form of profits. Compared to paid employment, where one earns fixed amount of salary or wage, or a fixed amount of salary or wage monthly or weekly. You must give a comparison by bringing in the other side also. And some of you have just a tendency of saying unlike, and you stop there. In self-employment, there is job security, hence assurance of the job, unlike in wage employment. Then if you just say unlike in wage employment, you are not giving us what wage employment is all about as well. So try to write both sides, identify which questions are comparison questions, and identify which questions are only seeking for differences. Candidates tend to get confused in between. Are they questioned, is the approach for differences or is the approach for comparison? But comparison questions are too direct. You can see that this is a comparison question. Why is self-employment preferred to wage employment? Why are direct taxes preferred to indirect taxes? Very, very direct. Why are formal businesses preferred to informal businesses? Formal business and informal business, we know that they are found in the topic of small and medium enterprises. The same topic we also find insurance and then family business. So like here on taxation, direct taxes, why are direct taxes preferred to indirect taxes? We also use the conjunction of compared to, or unlike, or other than. Those are the three terms you should employ. Let us also check on principles or essentials or tools or rules or canons of taxation, because they mean the same. They ask you the tools, state them without any qualifier. Don't take a side, just mention a neutral point. And spelling is very, very key when you are explaining question is concerning principles, because a slight change in meaning will make your point to be crossed. Spelling is key. I have said here principles of taxation include, I have used this mnemonic device just to assist you to remember, and I've said there are FEC power 4, then PENS, just for remembrance, where F stands for flexibility, E stands for equity, 1C stands for comprehensiveness, another for consistency, another for certainty, like that. In fact, if they ask you advantages of direct taxes, they get their points from these principles of taxation. Direct taxes are flexible. Direct taxes are comprehensive. Direct taxes are consistent. They just use these very principles to turn them into the advantages of direct taxes. Or we can even use these very principles and we turn them into the disadvantages, maybe on direct or indirect taxes. Just a matter of playing with them around. Like flexibility, we are saying the principle states that a good tax should change depending on the economic situation of the country. You are done with the explanation. And usually these principles are, usually they carry 2 marks in most cases. But if you find 10 marks, give 10. Let the examiner decide. Describe the principles of insurance. Someone in the chat room asked about principles of insurance. And the principles of insurance, sometimes they also say canons of insurance. We have the indemnity, principle of indemnity. Now, like I told you, spelling is very, very key. Instead of writing the principle of PLE, you are writing the principle of PAL. You will be wrong. They will cross you. You're saying principle of indemnity. The indemnity is correct, but the spelling of principle is wrong, because the other principle of PAL has now changed the whole meaning. The same thing applies to, in paper 2, there's where we talk about loan principle. When we are talking about loan principle in paper 2, we are talking about the spelling of that ends with PAL, not PLOE, because principles of PLOE are like rules. But the other principle is of PAL when it comes to loans. So don't again say loan principle and in your spelling you're using PLOE. You'll be wrong. Kindly take note of that. So the principles of insurance, we have indemnity, subrogation, where indemnity says one is not supposed to benefit from insurance, that insurance company is just there to restore you to your original position. If you insure your tax worth 10 million against accident, and indeed it gets an accident, they won't compensate you beyond 10 million shillings, because they are not there to put you in a better position, but just to restore you have your taxi worth 10 million and continue with your work. We have things like principles like this one of subrogation, where if the insurance company compensates you, then the scrap remains theirs. For example, if a car gets an accident and then they compensate you, the car was worth 20 million. They try to repair and things don't work out. You see, before they compensate, they first try repairs. If repairs don't work, or if it is beyond damage, then they just compensate you with that amount. And then after the compensation, they will take the property, the scrap. Why? They don't want you to benefit from insurance. Because if they compensate you and they leave the scrap, for you may end up selling the scrap and add on the money they compensated and you benefit. Yet the principle of indemnity says You are not supposed to benefit from insurance. Instead, insurance is just there to restore you to your original position. And then the principle of proximate cause. The word proximate means nearness. There must be close relationship between the cause of the risk and the risk actually insured. If you insure your building, let's say against fire, God forbid the building is taken by a landslide, then insurance company cannot compensate you. Why? There is no relationship between fire and a landslide. These two are completely different and they won't compensate you. Then another principle is the principle of insurable interest. You must insure a property in which you have interest in. Like we said, you cannot insure the neighbor's car, but you can insure your car. Why? You have interest in your own car. If you help to insure the neighbor's car and then it gets an accident, you cannot feel the pain like the neighbor himself or herself. But if your own car crashes, you will feel the real pain. So insurance says, please insure something you have interest in. If you insure your neighbor's child against death and God forbid he dies, yes, you feel pain, but it is not like if your own child passes on. And then utmost good faith, that when you are taking up the insurance policy, you must disclose all the relevant material facts about the property being insured. Don't hide. There was a circumstance where I think at one point there was a situation. Someone constructed, I think it was a housing sort of housing company estate. They construct houses and they sell to people. I think they used mud. They constructed using mud. And then after they plastered it and it looked like a permanent house, looked very unique and they sold expensively. So they went to insurance and insured it. At a time of a storm, when it took off the roof and it was time for insurance company to come and compensate, they found that the house was made of poles, and therefore insurance company could not compensate because the person was not truthful during the time of taking up the insurance policy. The person lied. So the person violated the principle of utmost good faith. So that's what these principles are all about. I've even given an abbreviation here, CIPTWI, where this is insurable interest, indemnity. Another I is insurable interest, S is subrogation, and then U is utmost good faith, and then P is proximate cause. Those are the 5 principles of insurance. Of course, some books will go ahead to add on contribution, that if you contribute with more than one, you insure your property with more than one insurance company during time of risk occurrence when they are compensating you, these two will compensate. In case you contributed equally to these 2 companies, they will bring half. So if you were insuring with Jubilee and the same time with Excel, thinking they will buy you 2 cars, you would have wasted your time. Jubilee will bring a half, and then Excel will also bring a half, and they buy you 1. I see Sesame Girls, your hand is up. Let me check the chat for now. Okay. What type of question is takes 2 marks, i.e. stating point and explanation? Okay, that's a good question from Coach Clement. Now, question is which take 2 marks in most cases, our question is asking for factors that affect or determine. If you ever see a question saying, explain the economic environment factors that determine entrepreneurial activities, the key word there is factors that affect, factors that determine, factors that influence, where we state a neutral point and explain 2 sides, the positive side and the negative side. Such question is carry 2 marks. The point you state carries 1 mark. The positive side you explain carries a half, and the negative side carries a half, totaling to 2. And then, how do you deal with the questions concerning principles? Just state a point and explain. For example, what are the principles of purchasing? You say right quality, explain. Right quantity, explain. Right source, right price, like that. A neutral point, and then just add an explanation. That was Nalongo SS. Then Martinez is saying, that one I answered. Is it advisable to use tables when answering questions of differences? No. Just use these conjunction words, whereas, while, and yet. And then how do they approach questions with influence? I think that's where we are approaching pros and cons of taxes. Those are advantages and disadvantages of taxes. And pros are advantages, cons are disadvantages. And we all know what the approach of advantages and disadvantages. We already talked about it, and we said you use present simple tense. That's use of S. New Hope High School, Mayuge, you are saying how to answer circumstantial questions. Questions of circumstantial, we're also going to quickly go through them. But circumstantial question is called for the use of in case, if, and when you're approaching them. Just say in case, if, when. And we can still get points from advantages, but the tense changes. You apply there in case, if, or when. Another one is asking about definition of marketing and definition of selling. Okay. Another one is saying, assuming the question does not ask me to explain, but is having 10 marks, but I have written 5 points, which is well explained. Can I get the 10 marks? Like I told you, you leave that to the examiner. It depends on how the marking guide will be. You will explain and still, in fact, in section B, even if they say outline, they want you to explain. Don't outline, don't follow the words used. Explain your work. I started by saying try to give points if they are there. For example, I can't ask you ways of motivating workers in an organization and you write me 5 points. Yet a marking guide has around 24. Very many. So learn to write points on certain questions. Of course, there are questions which have few points, but then there are those that carry very many points. Is it advisable to use abbreviation like e.g., etc. when answering in paper 1? It shouldn't be too common, but they don't cross you. However, don't make it common. Don't go everywhere using e.g., etc., i.e. If once in a while in your point you have said i.e., they will mark, because we all know what i.e. means. We all know what e.g. stands for. But don't make it a habit. Everywhere, e.g., i.e. Now there it raises an issue. What features were clearly observed to ensure effective communication in your business? These are principles of effective communication. Then someone is talking about negotiation, insurance, and taxation. You just stated them. I don't know what you're meaning. Explain more about demographic factors on the environment. Whenever you see the word demographic, we are now talking about the population. We are talking about the age of the population. That's what demography is all about. We are going to quickly go through. Essentials of a valid contract. Essentials of a valid contract. Yes, it's good to understand them, but they were formerly in the old curriculum of O-level. In A-level, it usually comes in when they're asking about, in paper 2, especially about contracts. That's when maybe we can talk about issues of valid contract. In paper 1, it's rare. Even when you try to take the syllabus, it's rare to find contracts, especially essentials of valid contract, by things of having by offer, performance, frustration, those things. They are not here for now. Okay. Someone is saying you are too fast. Remember, some of us are writing. Sorry for that, but you see the 2 hours cannot be enough to do all these things. In some facilitations you have gone or seminars you have been in, they do these things for the entire day. For us, we are trying to summarize them in 2 hours. However, during your free time, when you go back for holiday and you are able to access internet, phones, go to YouTube. These lessons are recorded. Go, check the holistic e-learning platform. Just put there Senior 6 Entrepreneurship Facilitation on YouTube. You'll be able to access these recordings and you listen at your own pace. Thank you. On which side do you consider when giving indicators? Either neutral, I don't know. Your question is not clear, Madit. Okay, someone is saying I should zoom. Another is asking about capital markets. I usually advise students that if you are not in a hurry, don't choose questions related to capital markets. If you are not in a hurry, this is just an advice. I'm not discouraging you. Capital markets is an interesting topic. In fact, last year they asked about capital markets and the question was very easy. I think they wanted the roles of capital markets. Capital markets needs deep understanding. It's not just a topic you rush in. And it's a topic which is very, very practical. You must understand how securities are, financial securities are trending. So it's a good topic. And usually we receive those questions in section A. You can't avoid them. You'll find such questions in section A that even if you avoid doing section B, A, you'll have to answer. Make sure you understand capital markets, a market where financial assets are traded. Of course, another question would be what are financial assets? That needs time to go through that. I think I have ever gone through capital markets in some of the January lessons we had. You can go to YouTube and check in there. Okay, so people are saying I'm speedy. Like I've explained that, you will go to YouTube recordings and you'll access this work. It will be there. Someone is asking, what about End Paper 2? I think you should give your opinion next Friday on whether we should look at End Paper 2 or we look at End Paper 3 or we talk about all of them in the 2 hours. The first 1 hour, we hint about Paper 2, and then the last 1 hour, we also talk about Paper 3. Okay. Someone is talking about sales promotion. Okay. Let us go back and quickly summarize here. So this is all about principles of purchasing. You go and revise principles of purchasing and the topic of production as well. I explained the roles to ensure lucrative personal branding. So principles of personal branding, giving a name, rotating around one's career. Naming a business, rotating around one's career is what we call personal branding. Most candidates, when they ask them to define personal branding, they give a definition of branding. Branding is the giving of a name to a product to distinguish it from other similar products. But personal branding is the giving of a name to business around one's own career or name. For example, if you are called Adong and then you're operating a hardware, then you name it Adong Hardware. It means you have named the business along your own, basing on your own name. You could be a doctor and then you have set up maybe a poultry farm and then you use maybe Musau Poultry Farm. It means you have named the business around your own career, the profession you are in. That's what we call personal branding. And the principles of personal branding, we have specialization, distinctiveness, visibility, unity, goodwill. So in the interest of time, you will go and look through that. Principles of effective communication. Sometimes we call them features of effective communication or characteristics of effective communication. And these are the 7 C's: clarity, completeness. Don't say through clarity, through, no, just state a point. And we are saying, if you revise these principles of effective communication, and then you come across a question asking for barriers to effective communication, use these very ones, but attach their negativity. For example, one principle of effective communication is completeness. Barriers to effective communication, I can say incomplete message. Then solution is to the barriers, I will say giving complete message. I'm just playing around with one point. That completeness, that's when they ask me a principle of effective communication. If they ask me barriers to effective communication, I will say incompleteness of the message. And then when they ask me solutions to the barriers to effective communication, I will say giving a complete message. So we can just play around with these points, these principles, and I will not need it again to revise, or you as a candidate, you're not supposed to again revise solutions, barriers, strategies. Already you have the principles. Once you have them, it's very easier for you to juggle around. Then tools. Question is of tools. State them the way they are without any qualifier. Begin by stating for example, if they ask you tools of inventory and stores management, if you come across such a question, okay, sorry, Wobutu asked for zooming. Maybe let me zoom for you a bit. Zooming. Hope you are now able to see. Okay. Zoom. So if they ask you for tools and, of inventory and stores management, these are two different things. So you first differentiate them, or rather separate them. You said the following are the tools of inventory management, and give them. And we all know that stores management is part of inventory management. This is the topic of production. And then after you have given the lead time, reorder level, working capital, stores management, there are only four. You said the following are the tools of stores management. You also explain, you clearly explain them: stock card, stock requisition, stock reconciliation form, physical taking, stock ledger. Then you'll find a question: why is it necessary to manage inventory in a business? Now, if I find such a question, why is it necessary to manage inventory in a business? And I know the tools in the inventory management, I will first start with those ones. To maintain stock in the business. And of course, stock maintenance is all about the reorder level, to avoid running out of stock in a business. That's an issue of lead time. Lead time is the time between placing the order and actually receiving it. For example, you may order the goods today, and then you receive them after 2 weeks. So that period between making an order today and receiving after 14 days, in between here is what we call the lead time. And therefore, lead time can be short or long. If the supplier takes long to give you after you have made an order, then that's a long lead time. Your teachers went through with you on that. And here we are just focusing on the approach to questions. And then question is of characteristics. In characteristics also, don't use by, don't use I, just state a neutral point. Don't use should, like some of you like should be trend spotters. Just mention, if they ask you characteristics of innovators, just say trend spotters, explain. Inner directed, explain. Self-disciplined, explain. But don't say they should be self-disciplined, they should be inner directed, they should be trend spotters. That one will cost you on marks. Question is asking for characteristics, features, attributes, traits. They call for mentioning of a neutral point, and then you explain it. Describe the characteristics of social entrepreneurs. Just state them: visionary, explain. Creative and innovative. Social, in the explanation, you say social entrepreneurs come up with solutions to social problems. You have explained. Goal-oriented, passionate with what they do, risk takers, etc., etc. Some of you, when they ask you characteristics of social entrepreneurs, you bring in characteristics of entrepreneurs. Yes, there are points which cut across, like all of them are goal-oriented, all of them are creative and innovative, but there are some which all of them are risk takers, but there are some points which don't cross the other side either way. However, if you're in exam and you're stranded, you don't know what goes where, just give them the red pen will sort out which ones are for social entrepreneurs and they will mark them. Then the ones you have given and they were not necessary, they will leave them out. It's like when you're in paper 2 and you are preparing these documents, they only mark out what was needed. If you put in a document what was not required, they ask you a letter of inquiry. Some things you have included are correct, others are wrong. They just mark out those ones you have passed and leave those ones that you have not passed. There is a year we found a candidate, I think, by the way, you should avoid putting in frame signpost. Where in life have you ever seen a signpost in frame? That they have placed a signpost somewhere and then they cover it. Then how will people see? So even in examination, when you're drawing some of these things, you should also apply what they call common sense outside the classroom. How can a signpost be covered after you have? And we find also a candidate has drawn a signpost and there is no stand. So where do you find a signpost lying on the ground? A signpost must have a stand. Another candidate is giving you distance, has drawn an arrow on a signpost and is telling you 60 kilometers ahead. How can you put a signpost 60 kilometers away from the point of business? Signpost should not exceed 10 kilometers. For examination purposes, don't write distance beyond 10 kilometers. Use 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, like that. By now, you are indicating, one time a candidate indicated on a signpost that 150 kilometers. Where in life can you find 150 kilometers? That's a very, very long distance. That if you're in Kampala and then you indicate that your business is 150 kilometers away, that's literally Masaka, almost Masaka and beyond. And if you are taking the eastern route, you may even be exceeding up to Tororo almost. So you must be keen with some of the things. You must be factual. Describe the characteristics of a good tax system. Now, when it comes to taxation and they ask you characteristics, these are the only characteristics where we allow you to use the should, not just mentioning a neutral point. It's allowed to use the should. A good tax system should be flexible, should be economical, should be neutral, and you add on the explanation. This is the only part where you can do that. By these other characteristics, kindly state a neutral point just and explain. Circumstantial questions. Someone asked about questions which ask for circumstances. Sometimes we call them situational or instance or when may. Questions which ask when may an entrepreneur terminate the services of an employee. So start with responses, start with if or when or in case. And the word is in case. You can also use speculative words since the question is also speculative. So questions which are circumstantial, it means they're just trying to anticipate and you're also allowed to do the anticipation. I see Memorial's hand is up. Maybe I check the chat room and see. We are about to summarize. In 3 minutes time, we are going to summarize and we end our session. We have a lot to share. The time cannot allow for us to do this all. However, like I said before, these recordings are found on YouTube. You can go and find them there. Okay, Vanna something is saying they told us that in paper 2 we have to enclose everything. Is it true? I have already talked about a signpost. You cannot enclose a signpost. Not everything that must be enclosed. Maybe another new thing which is trending is that don't forget business name and address. One of these days, it makes you lose a mark. Even if they're asking you for benefits, maybe of your business to the community. Give business name and address. It helps you to, and then the document you are writing about. It helps you to get that 1 mark. Even if you pass all of them, but you never gave that address, they subtract that 1 mark of recent. It is important to do so. We shall go through paper 2 next time. So circumstantial question is you start with in case, etc. Explain the methods of costing. These are questions about methods. These state them the way they are. Methods, they have no qualifier. Just state the method, full stop, explain. Explain the methods of costing. We're talking about job costing, and then you explain what job costing is all about. Also, go and revise about marketing techniques and marketing strategies. It is important to know about them. Most of you fail to understand what marketing techniques are and what marketing strategies are. Usually when they ask you, you mix them. And when you find a question asking, explain the marketing techniques and marketing strategies used by a business, separate them. Say the following are the marketing techniques used by a business. Give. And then you say the following are the marketing strategies used by a business. Some cut across like advertising, but the rest you may not need you have to understand them. Very common in paper 3 especially, very common issues of marketing techniques and especially section C. Account for question is, these depend on the nature of the question is. For example, account for the failure of business plan implementation, account for the high rate of failure of small and medium enterprises. You should know how questions of account are approached. Still on questions of account, I repeat, don't bring your approach of geography, because usually I see questions there. A learner gives you things, and then when you say you are wrong, says, but in geography, they mark us. Here, questions of account, they have their own specific approach. In fact, it depends on the question asked. If they say account for the failure of a business plan implementation, they are simply asking for the causes of business plan failure to be implemented. And then account for the high rate of failure of small and medium enterprises. They are simply asking what causes small businesses to fail. So account in most cases look for the causes of that particular thing they are asking about. And here we are saying the above questions are similar to similar and give the causes, i.e. inadequate capital. So if they ask you account for the failure of business plan implementation, and maybe another question, account for the high rate of failure of small and medium enterprises, these points are the same. So don't revise causes of failure on business plan. Again, you come and revise causes of failure on small and medium. Those are the same points. Once you revise one, on the same thing, they all face
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we should end our session here. Majority were saying you are not hearing me in these last minutes when network went off and the settings would not allow me to join in. Otherwise, we have shared a lot. Next week, we shall also share on paper. We shall share on paper 2 and paper 3. And also come prepared, come along with your questions. I will dedicate the first 20 minutes to answer all your questions you have had today. Maybe I see Nyarilo SS, the hand is up. You can unmute and then say what you want to say.
You talk just. Hey, thank you very much. I want to ask this question on Monday. Which subject are we going to discuss?
Okay, Mr. Kaziba, are you on to answer that?
Thank you so much, Mr. Richard, for the wonderful session that you have offered to us. Mr. Richard, we are going to draw a timetable this evening, and we shall let them know which subject, but let them expect some of the subjects that we have not had this week, and some of the papers like entrepreneurship. Next week, we shall have that paper you have mentioned. So we are going to include some other subjects, but I'm yet to confirm whether it will be biology, whether chemistry, whether physics, but we are going to let you know very soon.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Maybe we also pick more one question and then we end our session. I see Mukura Memorial SS. Unmute yourself.
So when are you having paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3? First,
Okay, has communicated is going to draw the timetable, and that timetable will circulate. Probably you will see which day, in the case we are included, when we shall have paper.
We are requesting that to scroll back. We are missing out some questions. From number 4. From number 3B, on the questions, please help us scroll back from number 3B. You had skipped it.
Okay, as Mr. Richard is scrolling, tomorrow we are going to have history at 9, history senior 6 at 9. It will start at 9, but also we shall have chemistry for O level starting at 9. We shall still use the same rooms we have used today, and we shall have a lengthy discussion. It will go in for more than 2 hours to enable us complete everything that we have not been able to cover in history and in chemistry for O level. So tomorrow you can prepare early for that session, and we shall also have some discussions from the different schools. So in case you receive questions as a school, or when you see them on platform, you can pick a question such that the examiners that are going to be facilitating those sessions, they can guide you further on top of what the teachers have already shared with you. And in case you have any questions in history, also prepare them such that you can be supported tomorrow. We want to ensure that each one of you at least scores an A that all your efforts you have put in that can pay off. And I'm very sure that if you keep on working hard, putting in the effort, we are going to get the A's. The A's are assured. Thank you so much, Mr. Richard, for the wonderful session. And we thank all the schools that have been able to join in up to this moment. We are really very grateful for the sacrifice, dear students, that you are making to be here. Maybe let me ask Coach Clement. Coach Clement.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Kaz. I appreciate for your platform and the facilitators like the one of entrepreneurship, Mr. Richard. For me, I want to know how one can join your platform for scorers so that we can see the program of this facilitation is how it is going on. Thank you, sir.
Okay, now I'm going to paste a link in the chat. I'm going to paste a link in the chat, but let me just post here my number. That one. Then you can send me a message. You just tell me you want to join a teachers group, maybe you're a student, something like that. And then I will be able to send you the link such that you can join. So you can send me a message on WhatsApp on that number, then I will be able to. Okay. Otherwise, thank you so much. Okay. Huzaifa? Huzaifa?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I was wondering whether I could actually be foretold on project work issues.
Project work for which level?
S6.
Oh, okay. Now, we are going to wait on Friday. We shall have entrepreneurship again on Friday. So just prepare yourself to attend. He will be able to handle all those things.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Then Makula Memorial.
Excuse me, sir. Good evening.
Yes.
We are wondering. We are not seeing any work being displayed. Instead, we are seeing that you are sharing a screen of someone else. We have not seen the number displayed. We are not even seeing the questions that were to be scrolled. Instead, we are seeing people whom you have actually given opportunity to communicate.
Oh, sorry about it. Mr. Richard has some network issues, so he's off the call, but we are going to be sharing those questions he has shared on the WhatsApp group such that you can be able to access.
Maybe you post your number now on the chat. Post the number on the chat.
Okay, I've posted it. But let me post it again. For other subjects like agriculture, we shall be letting you know such that we can be able to support you in that direction. You can send me WhatsApp, then we shall share those different questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending. We want to wish you a good evening. Dear students, keep putting in the efforts, keep sacrificing, make some sacrifices at this time such that your future can be more bright. Thank you and see you tomorrow for history at 9 a.m. Dear teachers, for the schools that are interested in presenting something in history, pick the questions, send me the message such that I can send you, and then you prepare something tonight such that the children can be able to showcase what you are doing in your schools. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening. We love you so much and bye-bye, everyone.